No, please don't leave me alone. I can't do this without you. Please stay. Yes, I signed a paper, but I don't know what it's all about. Janet, where's my bag? Definitely this is my baby with my sister. She the mama! So my sister actually forged the adoption document to have my baby because she has no child. After all these years, you took my baby away from me. I'm having back by force from your hand.
The hospital room smelled like disinfectant and broken promises. She could still remember that smell 7 years later. Sharp, clinical, suffocating. She was 23 years old, lying in a bed in Tacoma, Washington, her body exhausted from 18 hours of labor, her heart shattered from 3 months of abandonment. The baby's father had left when she was 5 months pregnant, taking their shared apartment lease, their joint bank account, and every ounce of stability she thought she had. Hello guys, welcome to my channel where interesting stories of revenge are told. My sister convinced me to give up my baby when I was broke and alone, then raised my child as her own for 7 years. I never knew she forged the adoption papers until I opened the case myself. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. She had nothing. No job that would take her back after maternity leave, no savings, no plan. Just a newborn with blonde curls and eyes that looked exactly like hers, staring up from the hospital bassinet like a question she couldn't answer. That's when her older sister walked in. Jennifer was everything she wasn't. Put together, successful, married to a software engineer in a clean Seattle suburb 40 minutes north. Jennifer wore expensive jeans that fit perfectly, carried a designer purse, and smelled like lavender and confidence. She'd always been the golden child, the one their parents bragged about at family dinners, the one who did everything right. "I've been thinking," Jennifer said, sitting on the edge of the hospital bed with that concerned older sister expression she'd perfected over the years. "You need help. Real help." She nodded, too tired to argue, too scared to think clearly. "Mark and I have been trying for years," Jennifer continued softly. "We've done fertility treatments, seen specialists. Nothing's worked. And you, sweetheart, you're not ready for this. You don't have a home. You don't have income. You can barely take care of yourself right now." The words stung because they were true. "What if we adopted the baby?" Jennifer asked. "Temporarily. Just until you get back on your feet. You could see her whenever you wanted. She'd stay in the family. She'd have everything, good schools, stability, 2 parents. And when you're ready, when you've rebuilt your life, we can revisit everything." It sounded reasonable. It sounded like love. "It would be legal, of course," Jennifer added quickly. "We do it properly. But it doesn't have to be permanent. Think of it as extended family care. I'm your sister. I would never take her from you." She remembered crying. She remembered Jennifer hugging her, stroking her hair like she had when they were kids and she'd scraped her knee. She remembered the papers appearing the next morning. Jennifer brought them in a manila folder, speaking quickly about formalities and legal requirements. "The social worker needs your signature. It's just consent for temporary guardianship while we process everything properly. You'll meet with a judge later to finalize details, but for now, we need to get the baby discharged into stable care." The fluorescent lights hurt her eyes. Her body ached. The words on the paper blurred together, legal jargon she didn't understand, boxes and lines and official-looking seals. She tried to read, but exhaustion pulled at her brain like fog. "Where do I sign?" she whispered. Jennifer pointed.
"Here. And here."
"Initial here."
She signed.
Her hand shook so badly the signature barely looked like hers. "You're doing the right thing," Jennifer said, squeezing her shoulder. "You're giving her a chance." The next morning, she woke up alone. The bassinet was empty. Jennifer had texted. Asterisk took the baby home to get settled. Rest up. We'll talk soon. Asterisk. She never stood before a judge. She never attended a court hearing. She never received official adoption paperwork. When she asked, weeks later, Jennifer said everything had been handled by the attorney and that she didn't need to worry about the details. It's done. It's legal. She's safe. That's what matters. And because Jennifer was her sister, because she'd known her entire life, because she taught her to ride a bike and helped her with homework and held her when their grandmother died, she believed her. She told herself this was temporary. She told herself she'd get her baby back when she found a job, an apartment, some semblance of stability. She told herself Jennifer wouldn't lie. But months passed, then a year, then 2. Every time she asked to visit, Jennifer had excuses. She's napping. We're traveling. She's getting adjusted. Too much disruption isn't good for her development. Then the excuses stopped, and the silence began. Jennifer stopped answering calls, stopped responding to texts. Family gatherings became awkward, their parents tiptoeing around the subject, pretending everything was normal while her daughter sat on Jennifer's lap, calling her mama. She wasn't invited to birthday parties. She wasn't sent photos. She was erased. And the worst part? Everyone acted like it was fine, like she'd made a choice, like she'd willingly given up her child and now needed to respect Jennifer's family. Nobody asked if she was okay. Nobody questioned the story. She spiraled. Depression swallowed her whole. She couldn't hold jobs. She couldn't sleep. Guilt wrapped around her throat like hands, squeezing tighter every time she saw a little girl with blonde curls at the grocery store. She hated herself for signing those papers. She hated herself for being weak. She hated herself for trusting the one person who should have protected her. But she didn't know, not yet, that hate was the least of what she should have felt. Because what Jennifer had done wasn't just betrayal.
It was theft.
And 7 years later, purely by accident, she would discover exactly how deep the lie went. Years of silence and a life rebuilt. The first year after losing her baby was a blur of shame and survival. She moved into a cramped studio apartment in a rough part of Tacoma, working double shifts at a diner where the coffee was weak and the tips were weaker. Every night, she came home smelling like grease and failure, collapsing into bed with her phone clutched in her hand, scrolling through the few photos she had from the hospital, tiny wrinkled face, perfect little fingers, eyes barely open. She named her daughter Emma in her mind. Jennifer had chosen something else, Madison, but she couldn't bring herself to use it.
Emma felt right.
Emma felt like hers. Except Emma wasn't hers anymore. The depression came in waves. Some days she could function, autopilot her way through orders and small talk. Other days, she couldn't get out of bed. She stopped answering her parents' calls because their voices carried pity and questions she couldn't answer. How are you doing? Have you thought about going back to school? Have you seen Jennifer lately? No. She hadn't seen Jennifer. Jennifer was busy raising her daughter. When she did see family, awkward Christmas dinners, her mother's birthday, Jennifer would arrive with Madison, now a toddler with curly blonde hair and a gap-toothed smile. The little girl would run around the living room while Jennifer and her husband Mark played the perfect parents, discussing preschools and swim lessons like they'd won some prize. Nobody mentioned the adoption. Nobody asked how she felt watching another woman mother her child. It was like she'd signed away not just her baby, but her right to grieve. By year 2, something shifted. Maybe it was survival instinct. Maybe it was spite. She couldn't keep drowning. It wouldn't bring Emma back, and it wouldn't change what happened. So she made a decision that surprised even herself. She enrolled at University of Washington, Tacoma. Social work. People asked why she'd choose something so difficult, so emotionally draining. She told them she wanted to help families in crisis. She told them she understood what it felt like to be vulnerable and desperate. She told them she wanted to make a difference. She didn't tell them the truth, that every textbook on family law, every lecture on adoption ethics, every case study on parental rights felt like picking at a wound that wouldn't heal. She was punishing herself, probably, or preparing herself. She wasn't sure which. The coursework was brutal. She learned about consent requirements, legal guardianship versus adoption, the rights of biological parents. She learned that proper adoption required court appearances, judicial approval, mandatory waiting periods. She learned that signatures obtained under duress or without proper legal counsel could be challenged. Little alarm bells rang in her head, but she pushed them down. Jennifer wouldn't have done anything illegal. She was her sister. She'd said everything was handled properly. Still, the doubt planted itself like a seed. She graduated with honors 3 years after losing Emma. By then, Madison was 5, old enough for kindergarten, old enough to form sentences and opinions. She saw photos on Jennifer's Facebook. First day of school, Halloween costume, family vacation to Disneyland. She wasn't tagged in any of them. She wasn't mentioned. She had become a ghost in her own daughter's life. Her parents suggested she move on. Her mother, over coffee one afternoon, said gently, "Sweetheart, you made a choice. Jennifer and Mark are wonderful parents. Maybe it's time to let go and focus on your own future." She wanted to scream. She wanted to flip the table. Instead, she smiled tightly and changed the subject. Moving on wasn't an option, but neither was falling apart again. So she built a life, careful, controlled, intentional. She got a job with Washington State Child Protective Services, working in the adoption and foster care division. The irony wasn't lost on her. She spent her days reviewing cases, ensuring children were placed in safe homes, verifying that proper procedures were followed. She became good at it. Meticulous. Obsessive, some colleagues said. She caught errors other caseworkers missed, forged signatures, backdated documents, guardianship agreements that didn't meet legal standards. She had a reputation for being thorough to the point of annoying. Her supervisor once joked, "You review these files like you're investigating a crime." She smiled, just making sure everything's legitimate, because if she'd learned anything, it was that people lied. People cut corners. People exploited vulnerable mothers and called it help. Jennifer had stopped speaking to her entirely by year 5. No more awkward holiday encounters. Jennifer simply stopped coming to family events when she was invited. Their mother made excuses. Jennifer's busy with Madison's activities. They're traveling for Mark's work. You know how it is with young families. She knew exactly how it was. The final thread of connection came through social media. Jennifer's Facebook and Instagram were public, filled with the highlight reel of Madison's childhood. Birthday parties with themed decorations. Dance recitals. Mother-daughter spa days. She watched from behind a screen, starving for glimpses of the girl she'd given birth to. Madison looked happy. That was supposed to make her feel better, wasn't it? That was the whole point of the adoption, giving her child a better life. But late at night, alone in her apartment, she wondered if Madison ever asked about her. If Jennifer had told her the truth, that her aunt was actually her biological mother. If Madison would hate her one day for giving her away. The guilt never left. It just changed shape. By year 7, she becomes someone she barely recognized. Competent, professional, independent. She had her own apartment in a decent neighborhood, a car that ran a savings account. She'd built the stability she was supposed to have before becoming a mother. But Emma Madison was 7 years old now, growing up with someone else's last name, someone else's bedtime stories, someone else's love. And then, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. She was assigned a routine case, an adoption file review from 7 years prior, flagged during a random audit for missing documentation. Old cases, bureaucratic cleanup, nothing unusual. She opened the file and saw her own name. The case that broke everything open. Her hands froze on the keyboard. The office suddenly felt too small, too bright, the hum of fluorescent lights pressing down on her skull like a vice. She blinked at the screen, convinced she'd misread, convinced this was some cruel coincidence. But there it was, in plain black text, her full legal name, the date of Emma's birth, the hospital in Tacoma. Her case, her daughter, her adoption. Filed 7 years ago and randomly selected for a routine compliance audit. The odds were astronomical. Washington State processed thousands of adoptions annually. The chances of her being assigned her own file during a standard records review were so slim they bordered on impossible. But here it was, sitting in her queue like a ghost returning to haunt her. She should have recused herself immediately. That was protocol. The second a caseworker identified a conflict of interest, personal connection, family involvement, anything that compromised objectivity, they were required to transfer the case. She stared at the Reassign Case button. Her finger hovered over the mouse. She didn't click it. Instead, she clicked Download Full File. The documents populated on her screen: birth certificate, medical records, consent forms, court orders, notarization certificates. Everything looked official. Everything looked legitimate. Except she'd spent the last 4 years learning exactly what legitimate looked like. And this wasn't it. She opened the consent form first, the one she'd signed in the hospital, exhausted and broken. The signature was supposed to be hers. She enlarged it on the screen, her heart hammering against her ribs. The handwriting was wrong. She pulled out her driver's license, comparing signatures. Hers had a distinctive loop on the capital letter of her first name, a sharp angle on her last. The signature on the consent form was smoother, rounder, more controlled. It looked nothing like hers. She felt dizzy. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe trauma had changed her handwriting over the years. Maybe exhaustion had made her sign differently. She opened another document, an employment form she'd signed 2 months ago. Same loops, same angles. The signature on the adoption consent wasn't hers. Her breath came faster. She kept digging. The consent form was dated the morning after Emma's birth. She remembered that morning, Jennifer bringing the papers, speaking quickly, pointing where to sign. But the timestamp on the digital file showed it had been scanned and uploaded 3 days later. 3 days after she'd supposedly signed it. She opened the notarization certificate. Every legal document requiring parental consent for adoption in Washington state needed to be notarized, a neutral third party verifying identity, confirming the signature was made willingly and without coercion. The notary listed was someone named Robert Chen, license number included. She ran the license number through the state database. Robert Chen's notary commission had been revoked 4 years ago for fraud. Her stomach dropped. She clicked deeper into his record. Multiple violations, backdating documents, notarizing signatures without the signer present, falsifying acknowledgments. He'd lost his license, paid fines, and, according to public records, currently worked at a hardware store in Spokane. She checked the date on the notarization again. Robert Chen had notarized her consent form 2 years after his license was revoked. It was impossible, illegal, completely fabricated. She opened the court order next, the document that should have finalized the adoption. In Washington, all adoptions required a hearing before a family court judge. The biological parent had to appear, either in person or via attorney representation, and verbally confirm their consent. The judge then issued a final decree. She'd never appeared before a judge. She'd never been contacted by any court. The order listed Judge Patricia Moreno, King County Family Court, as the presiding official. She searched the judicial database. Judge Moreno had presided over hundreds of adoption cases. But when she filtered by date and case number, the file number listed on Emma's adoption didn't exist in the court's official records. There was no hearing, no court date, no judicial review. The entire adoption had been faked. She sat back in her chair, the office spinning around her. Her colleagues typed away at their desks, oblivious. Someone laughed in the break room. A phone rang in the distance. Her world was collapsing, and nobody noticed. Jennifer hadn't convinced her to give up Emma. Jennifer had stolen her. The consent form was forged. The notarization was fraudulent. The court order was fabricated. Every single document that gave Jennifer legal custody was a lie. And she, the person who'd signed nothing, appeared nowhere, consented to nothing, had spent 7 years believing she'd made a choice. Rage flooded through her, hot and vicious. She wanted to scream. She wanted to drive to Jennifer's perfect suburban house and burn it down. She wanted to call her sister and demand answers, explanations, something that made this make sense. But she didn't. Because she was a social worker. Because she knew exactly what to do with fraudulent adoption files. Because revenge, she realized, didn't have to be loud. She took a breath. Then another. Her hands steadied. She opened the case management system and updated the file status. Critical compliance violation identified. Escalation required. She attached her findings: forged signature analysis, revoked notary verification, missing court records. She documented everything in clinical, professional language. No emotion, no personal connection, just facts. Then she flagged it for her supervisor, and for the state attorney general's office, and for the adoption fraud investigation unit. She CC'd everyone she could think of. Then she hit send. The system confirmed receipt. Within minutes, automated responses appeared: case escalation acknowledged, investigation team notified, preliminary review scheduled. She stared at the screen, her reflection ghostly in the black background. Jennifer had no idea what was coming. She'd built her perfect life on a foundation of lies, assuming nobody would ever look closely enough to notice. But someone had looked, and that someone knew exactly how to dismantle everything. She closed the file, shut down her computer, and walked out of the office. For the first time in 7 years, she smiled. Revenge through the truth. The investigation moved faster than she expected. Within 2 weeks, a special investigator from the Attorney General's office contacted her supervisor. Within a month, Jennifer received a letter notifying her that Madison's adoption was under formal review due to irregularities in documentation. She didn't warn her sister, didn't give her a heads up, didn't return the frantic voicemails that started flooding her phone. What the hell did you do? Jennifer's first message hissed. Why is the state investigating us? Call me back right now. She deleted it. The second message was different, scared, pleading. Please, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. Just call me. She saved that one. For evidence. Protocol required her to recuse herself once the investigation officially began, which she did without argument. Another caseworker took over the file, but she'd already planted the seeds, documented every discrepancy, created a paper trail so clear that even the laziest investigator couldn't miss it. She went to work every day, processed other cases, attended meetings, acted normal. At night, she tracked the investigation's progress through colleagues who didn't know her connection to the case. The state was thorough. They interviewed the hospital staff who'd been on duty 7 years ago. They subpoenaed Jennifer's attorney, except Jennifer had never actually hired an attorney for the adoption. That was another lie. They located Robert Chen, the disgraced notary. He admitted, under questioning, that he'd done side work for cash after losing his license. He identified Jennifer from a photo. She'd paid him $500 to backdate and notarize documents he'd never actually witnessed. The walls were closing in. Jennifer tried to reach her through their parents. Her mother called, voice tight with confusion and hurt. What's going on? Jennifer says you reported her to the state. She says there's been a mistake with Madison's paperwork. She's terrified they're going to take Madison away. There was no mistake, Mom, she said calmly. The adoption was fraudulent. Jennifer forged my signature and fabricated court documents. Madison was never legally adopted. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Jennifer committed multiple felonies. I didn't report her out of spite. I was assigned the case during an audit. I'm legally required to report fraud. Her mother's voice cracked. But Madison, she's just a child. You'd really do this to your own niece. She's not my niece, Mom. She's my daughter. The call ended shortly after. Her father tried next, attempting the reasonable mediator role he'd always played. Can't you two work this out privately? Does it have to involve lawyers and investigators? Think about what this will do to the family. Jennifer should have thought about that before she stole my baby, she replied. He sighed heavily. You gave her up. You signed the papers. I signed papers Jennifer put in front of me when I was vulnerable and desperate. Papers she told me were temporary. I never stood before a judge. I never consented to a legal adoption. She lied, Dad. And she's been lying for 7 years. He didn't call back after that. Jennifer's next move was predictable. She hired a lawyer, an expensive one from Seattle who sent threatening letters about defamation, harassment, and malicious prosecution. The lawyer claimed Jennifer had acted in good faith, that any irregularities were the fault of the notary and court clerks, that she believed everything was legitimate. The state wasn't buying it, because she'd also provided investigators with something Jennifer didn't know existed: text messages. She'd kept them all. Every excuse Jennifer made to avoid visits, every deflection when she asked about seeing Emma, every message that proved Jennifer had intentionally cut her out of Madison's life. One message from 4 years ago was particularly damning. "You need to accept that Madison is our daughter now. You made your choice. Stop trying to confuse her. Our daughter. Not, we're caring for her temporarily. Not, we're her guardians until you're stable. Our daughter."
Permanent.
Possessive. Final. The investigator interviewing her was a woman in her 50s named Carol, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. They met in a neutral office, everything recorded and documented. "Walk me through what your sister told you in the hospital," Carol said. She explained it all: the exhaustion, the fear, the promises of temporary help. Jennifer's assurance that everything was legal, that she'd meet with a judge later, that she could change her mind. "Did you ever want to terminate your parental rights permanently?" Carol asked.
No.
"Never. Jennifer told me it was temporary family care until I got stable." "And when did you realize it wasn't temporary?" "When she stopped letting me see my daughter. When she stopped answering my calls. When I saw photos of Madison calling her mom and realized I'd been erased." Carol took notes, her expression neutral but sympathetic. "Why didn't you challenge it sooner?" That was the question that haunted her. "Because I believed my sister. Because I thought I'd signed legitimate papers. Because everyone in my family treated it like I'd made a choice, and I started to believe maybe I had. I was young and broken and stupid." "You weren't stupid," Carol said firmly. "You were exploited by someone you trusted." The validation nearly broke her. 3 months into the investigation, Jennifer's husband filed for divorce. Mark claimed he'd known nothing about the forged documents, that Jennifer had handled all the adoption paperwork, that he believed everything was legal. Whether that was true or self-preservation, she didn't know, didn't care. Jennifer's perfect marriage was collapsing. Her perfect life was unraveling. And she'd done it to herself. The criminal charges came next: forgery, identity fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and unlawful adoption interference. Each one a felony. Jennifer's lawyer negotiated, trying to reduce charges, arguing mitigating circumstances. The prosecution wasn't interested. The family court moved simultaneously, issuing an emergency order. After reviewing the evidence, a judge ruled the adoption null and void. Madison was placed in temporary state custody pending further hearings to determine permanent placement. Jennifer lost custody the same way she'd lost Emma. Overnight, without warning, without choice. She attended the custody hearing, sitting in the back of the courtroom while Jennifer sobbed at the defendant's table. Their parents sat on Jennifer's side, shooting her looks of betrayal and disgust. She didn't care. The judge reviewed the case with clinical precision, detailing every fraudulent document, every lie, every violation. Then she looked at Jennifer. "You exploited your sister's vulnerability and stole her child," the judge said. "You built a family on deception and criminal fraud. The court finds no credible basis for your custody." Jennifer's sobs echoed through the courtroom. The judge turned to her. "Miss Patterson, given the extraordinary circumstances, the court is prepared to begin reunification services between you and your daughter with appropriate therapeutic support." Her heart stopped. "Thank you, Your Honor." Jennifer was let out by her attorney, broken and defeated. She walked out of the courthouse into cold Seattle rain, feeling lighter than she had in 7 years. Revenge hadn't required screaming or violence. Just the truth, properly documented and legally presented. Sometimes the best revenge was letting someone destroy themselves with their own lies. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Madison was confused, angry, grieving the only mother she'd known. Rebuilding that relationship would take years of patience, therapy, and love. But she had time now. She had truth on her side. The lies that had stolen 7 years couldn't steal anymore. Sometimes justice doesn't feel triumphant. It feels quiet, bittersweet, and necessary. She'd learned that protecting yourself isn't cruel, and demanding truth isn't revenge. It's survival. And sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who teach you exactly how strong you really are. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tell us what you learned in the comments below.